Hi, my name is Fearghal Youell. I'm a storyboard artist and animator, and this is my second of 3 tutorials I'm making on the animation process. Last week I did a video on character design, and this time I'm doing one on storyboards. So if you don't know what a storyboard is, it's basically a series of drawings that are done to plan out a scene. In animation, it's basically the start of the actual animation, these rough drawings to figure out where everything's going to be animated on. And it can also be used for non-animation, live-action type works to plan out a scene, especially if there's non-realistic elements like dragons or giant robots, because you want to figure out where everything goes before you start filming and then adding those elements in afterwards. So I have an example of how a storyboard works here. Each one of these pictures, it represents a different shot in the scene. And the first shot is of a hero, he's getting ready to bat, he's playing baseball. And then the next shot is a rival of his. He's got a ball, he's going to throw it. Next shot, the rival, he throws the ball, and the shot after that, the hero, he hits the ball. And the next shot after that, the ball is flying a great distance, and the final shot, the rival, he's shocked at how far the ball has flown. So if this was an animation, this is what would get drawn out first, and then the animators would receive these drawings, and then they'd animate over it, get, new drawings over them, a series of drawings to make everything start moving. And, this is the traditional format of what a storyboard looks like. 3 drawings at the top, 3 drawings at the bottom, and they usually also have these words and this text here. One at the top to determine what shot or scene it is, and some text at the bottom like describing what's happening. But that's not too necessary. The real important part of a storyboard is the drawings. They're helpful, but they're not 100% needed. And this type of format here, I got it off Google Images, so you can do the same if you want, all these specific boxes. And so while you may not notice this, but you probably subconsciously notice this whenever you're watching a scene, shots aren't all, they're not all the same type of shot. They're not like the same distance, the same angle. They use a variety of distances and angles. And that's the important part of a storyboard artist, is to figure out those variety of distances and angles to make shots more interesting than if every shot was the same. And now we'll be going over all those different types of distances and angles to make a shot more interesting. The first thing we'll be looking at is the distance of your camera, or in the case of animation, the imaginary camera, because there isn't an actual camera when you're animating, but we all say camera because it's easier to think of it that way. So I have a bunch of examples here using the characters that I drew in last week's character design video. So the first example I have is a mid shot using the button guy, and he's showing off a hammer. The mid shot is defined as showcasing the character's upper body, and I'd consider it the most common type of shot there is in filmmaking, and that's because it showcases all the important stuff. It's usually used when 2 characters are talking to each other. It'll be cutting back and forth between the 2 characters and showing only the upper half of their body. Because you see all the important things. You see their facial expressions, but you also see whatever they're doing with their hands. So yeah, I consider that the most common type of shot. The full shot is when you show a character's full body, and naturally you'd use it for when a character is doing something with their full body, if they're running or they're jumping, anything to do with their full body, but it also showcases the importance of a character. Usually a main character will be introduced showing their entire body, because you want to get a full sense of who the character is when you're introduced to them. But if it's not like an introduction, it's often just, used to either show what they're doing with their full body or showing their importance. I got the slug crime boss here, and I imagine a scene with him would always show the entirety of him to show how powerful he is. Here he is sitting on his big chair. He's got a commanding presence to him. Now the close-up is when you get close up to an object or a character. In the case of a character, it's usually to their face to showcase the details of their emotion. So I got the gardener guy, he's super happy, and the camera's close up to him to showcase how happy he is, all the details of his happiness. If it's not on a character, if it's on an object, it'll show important details of that object. If it's a close up on, say, a watch, that'll usually be to show what time is on that watch, anything like that. Next, we have a wide shot, which, like a full shot, it shows a full body, but it goes even further, usually to show the full bodies of multiple characters, and whatever else is important in the scene. I got 2 of the robot guard guy that I drew last week, and they're guarding a door, so, it's got all those important details, the 2 guards and the door. That's why you'd go even further out than a wide shot, to showcase what, multiple characters are doing and the important thing that's involved in the scene. But if you have just one character in a wide shot, that's usually to show, loneliness or weakness, if you got, one small person in a big world. But even further than a wide shot is the extreme wide shot, at which point, the characters become even less relevant or important. I've got the chip guy here, the chip ferryman, but the shot is so far out that you can't even see him, really. It's more about the boat he's on and the environment he's sailing across. That's usually what a wide shot is to show the environment, or maybe like a super big important scene. If a bunch of vehicles are doing something, an extreme wide shot will usually be needed to like showcase what's happening there. And the reverse of the extreme wide shot is the extreme close-up, where it goes even, like a close-up, it goes like close to a character's face, but it goes even further, usually on the eyes, or maybe it'll be on the mouth. We want to, make what a character's saying important. You may get close up to their mouth, but often it goes close up to the eyes, because the eyes are the most important aspect of expression. They're the most expressive part of the body, generally, considered to be that. And so here I got the bird, jock, sports bird, and it's close up to the eyes because she's like angry at someone, or she's like challenging towards someone, so it showcases that by getting super close to her eyes. After you have your distance figured out, you may want to consider your angle. Now that's not too common. Most shots are at like a normal angle facing straight towards a character, but there's a lot you can do. It's very effective to change the angle if you want to convey something. So the two most like common types of different angles are the low angle shot and the high angle shot, and they basically have the effect of like looking down at a character and looking up at a character respectively, and it's basically making them look smaller and making them look bigger, and the effects that come from that. So a low angle shot, you're looking down at a character, and that'll usually make them look like weak or scared. So I got the button guy here, maybe he's like looking up at a big monster or something, so it looks weaker and more scared. But it can also make a character look cuter if generally all the effects that come with like making someone look smaller. And then the reverse of that is of course the high angle shot, and of course the reverse of that effect is making them look scarier or more intimidating. So I got the slug crime boss. He'd probably be looked up by the camera a lot to like showcase his power and his intimidation. But it can also make someone look like strong or protective if you're looking up at them. So yeah, that's looking up and down with the camera. That's the effects that happen with that. But you can also tilt a camera, but that's a lot less common. And that's what's called a Dutch tilt. And it's basically just used to make a scene confusing or disorientating. If a character is confused, if they're scared, oftentimes, well, not often. It's really rare because it's a very weird effect to like make a character at a funny angle. But say we got the chip guy here. If he's like confused what's happening in the sea, the camera may be at an angle to showcase his like befuzzlement. And these two examples here, they're not really angles, but I wanted to fill up more space, so I've got these two kinds of shots here as well. There's the over-the-shoulder shot, which it's exactly what it says on the tin. When a camera, or hypothetical camera, is over the shoulder of a character, it'll usually show like the back of a character on one side and then whatever they're looking at on this side. And this has two effects. It can obscure what character is, at the forefront. It can hide their identity, but it can also, show you more, like, a closer understanding of their perspective. It'll put you more in their shoes to, have you up close at the back of them and looking at whatever they're looking at. And finally, I have here the establishing shot. That's just showing the environment at a start of the scene, generally. So the example I have here is mountains. If this was like a scene taking place on mountains, it would start by showing the mountains, and then it would cut to whatever the characters are doing on the mountains. The most common type of establishing shot I can think of is in like most TV shows. Usually the episode will start on showing like the main character's house or wherever they work. That's how like a lot of episodes will start, showing the main location and then showing what's actually happening in the location. So if we go back to the storyboard I was showing off at the start of the video, you can see that I've been using all those techniques I've been showing off to make it look more interesting. So yeah, the first shot, where the hero is he's getting ready to hit the ball, it's a wide shot to show like the challenge, that he's a small guy in a big whatever this environment is. I didn't really draw the environment, and that's something I really forgot to get into. You only need to draw what's important. So like wherever he is, that's not important in this. Like the environment can be figured out later. I only have this line to represent it. If you don't want to draw the environment, you don't need to. And similarly, I've shaded a lot of the characters, but you only need to do that if, as a storyboard artist, you want to showcase how a scene would be shaded. If the shading isn't important at this stage, you don't need to do it. Only draw what's important. So like I said, he's getting ready to bat, and it's a wide shot to showcase how challenging it is. The next shot, the rival, he's getting ready to throw the ball, and it's a low angle shot looking up at him to show how intimidating he is, to make him look more powerful and to make the challenge for the hero seem even greater. And then the next shot where he throws the ball, it's an over-the-shoulder shot because it puts everything that's important in frame. It's showing the rival from the back as he throws the ball, but you can still see the hero over here at a faraway distance to get a sense of like the distance of the ball getting thrown, while also seeing like all the important aspects of the rival throwing the ball. That's another thing I forgot to go into was you can use lines to show how everything's moving, because that's what whoever's receiving the storyboard, they may want to know that how everything's moving, so that they can animate that properly. Then the next shot, it's a mid shot where the hero he hits the ball, and that's because you want everything that's important to be front and center. So where the ball gets hit by the bat, that's right the center, and the bat and the ball, they'd get like very up close as the impact happens, and it gets hit. So that's the kind of distance you'd want for that. And then the ball that goes flying, and here's again motion lines to represent it's like close here, and then it goes farther and smaller away as it flies away a great distance. Then the final shot in which the rival, he's shocked by how far the ball flew, whereas previously it was a low angle shot to show how like intimidating he is. Now it's a high angle shot looking down at him to show how like weak and defeated he is now that he has been bested by the hero. So yeah, that's how the this was all made more interesting looking, and to counteract that, I've made here a storyboard using some of the characters I drew previously, which is, we got the gardener and the spider, and I've deliberately made this a boring looking storyboard so that I can improve it later. So the specific scene we have mapped out here, the gardener is walking through the forest, and then the spider sees the gardener, and the spider lowers behind the gardener sees the spider greets him, and the gardener is scared of the spider. And this kind of framing, it can be useful. Its general purpose would be to show like a rivalry between two characters, but that's not what we really want to convey here. For the purposes of this scene, this is a very boring way of framing everything. So I have already redrawn everything to improve it. I would have done it live, but it would take too long, so I've already done that, and now I'll be talking over a sped up version of that video to get you a sense of how to make something like this look more interesting. Okay, I got my video here, and before I get started, I should clarify that all the drawing that's been going on in this video has been on Fire Alpaca. It's a fairly easy to use and free software you can get on the internet. This is also the same one I was using in my last video. Now that that's out of the way, let's just get started. So the first thing I did was I established something called the rule of thirds, where you make all those lines you can see there, because they basically establish where is the important part where your eye will be looking for everything that's not the center. So that's needed to establish first. So yeah, the first shot I redrew was the one over here where the gardener is walking through the forest, and show he's like lonely and scared as he's walking through this creepy forest. It's done in a wide shot to show him as like small, scared in this big forest. And I've also done a lot of effort into the background because establishing the forest is important. And so for the spider seeing the gardener, I redrew it as a extreme close-up showing only the eyes. And I bring the rule of thirds here so that I know where to put the central eyes, where people will like really be looking at. And next is the spider lowering down behind the gardener, and I did that as an over-the-shoulder shot because I want to show both the gardener and the spider in an interesting shot. So the gardener is close up because his perspective is what we're looking at, and then the over-the-shoulder shot, so behind his shoulder is the spider lowering down. Yeah, and like I said, I've been doing the background because the setting's pretty important. You want to know how it looks. And then the gardener looking back, that is a mid-shot. And so again, I bring the rule of thirds back, because that's where I want to put his face. Well, that was where I wanted to put his face, and then I decided to, make it, centralize him. And then, yeah, motion lines there to convey that he's turning around. This could have been done with the rule of thirds, off to the side or in the middle, whatever you prefer. And then next is the spider greeting the gardener, and this is from a high-angle shot, so the camera is looking up at the spider, and it makes it look more intimidating. The previous one was also a low-angle shot, so it's looking down at the gardener to convey how scared he was, looking back at whatever was behind him. So there's the spider greeting him, and there's me shading it. Shading that's something you want to do if you want to put a little bit more detail. And the final shot there is the gardener being scared of the spider, and it's honestly not that different from the original one, but since I want to keep, the gardener's doing a lot of moving, so it's a full shot to convey his full body as he's like jumping out of fear, but I also want to show the spider in the same frame. And so that's the kind of example where you would use a shot like this, which is, a full shot showing the full bodies of two characters, even though you can't really see the spider. And yeah, here's definitely a significant use of the rule of thirds, because I know where to put the two characters is close to the two vertical lines. Because, yeah, the reason for the rule of thirds is that's kind of where our eyes drift off. And what I do next is I export the videos, export the pictures into their own folder, because then I can move them into a video editing software to create an animatic. So what an animatic is it's a storyboard that's been edited together into an actual video. And the way you can do that, or rather an easy way you can do that, is if you go into the search option here. I guess this is only with a Windows type computer, but if you type in video editor and click that, you'll get a literal video editor. And so what you do there is you open a new project, and soon the name option will come up, and you can name it whatever. I just always name it new video because it really doesn't matter. Then from there you can add either videos or pictures, but in the case of making an animatic, you just want to add the pictures. So you go add, and then from this PC, and from here I want to go into my pictures, my storyboard resources, and here's the folder that I made with all the drawings that I did. And I select all these. You can select them one at a time, or you can select all of them. And that also counts for here. You can put them into your storyboard one at a time. It's actually called the storyboard. Yeah, you can select them one at a time or select all of them. It works to select all of them as long as you do it in order. And then put them in. These should all be in order. Yep, there they are. And then it already makes a video. But it starts with there's a little timer here you may see where I'm pointing, where they're all 3 seconds. And if you click that, you can change it to whatever numbers are here, 1 second, 2 second, blah, blah, blah. Or you can just change it to, manually, say 6 seconds, and thus this particular shot lasts for 6 seconds instead of they start with 3 seconds. And that's quite important, because then you'll determine how long each shot is meant to last. So that's how you make an animatic. So that's how you make a storyboard, how you make your storyboard look more interesting, and how you can turn your storyboard into an animatic. But while I did this on Fire Alpaca on my computer and put the pictures into Video Editor, that's not stuff you need to do. You can do it if you want to, but to make a storyboard, all you really need to do is draw. And again, this is the common format, 3 pictures at the top, 3 pictures at the bottom. You can just do that on paper, and you can do it as many times as you want to create a scene as long as you want, as long as you just adhere to the principles of just making it look interesting and trying your best to depict a scene and conveying how it would move, how it would feel. Thank you for watching this video on storyboards and animatics. If you'd like to learn more from me, you can watch the other 2 videos in this series, part 1 on character design and part 3 on animation techniques. If you'd like more art content in general, you can follow the South Tipperary Arts Centre on YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram. Goodbye!